everyone again. I'm Michael Blumenthal, and I'm going to share some news and announcements from the last month of the world of Office 365. On the news side, there was a big announcement about an increase in the amount of storage that you get by default in the SharePoint part of your tenancy. So previously, until now or until soon, if it hasn't landed in your tenant yet, the way they calculated the default amount of storage that you get was they took the number of enterprise licenses and they said everybody gets 1 terabyte plus half a gigabyte based on the number of licenses you had. So if you had 1,000 licensed users, you would end up with 1.5 terabytes of SharePoint storage. They recently announced they're expanding that to 10 gig per user. That is a 20-fold increase. This means if you use that same example of 1,000 users, where before you had 1.5 terabytes, now you get about 11 terabytes of storage. Some customers may have been buying additional storage. With this new level, increased level of default, you may no longer need to buy that extra storage. So that's something to consider in the possible opportunity for cost savings. On May 21st, Microsoft held what they call the SharePoint Virtual Summit. And some of you may have been with us to watch that, or some of you were actually in Las Vegas for the SharePoint North America conference. And I know, Don, you were there. And the keynote from that conference was the SharePoint Virtual Summit, and they streamed that. One of the announcements they made was about SharePoint Spaces. SharePoint Spaces is this idea that you can take a virtual reality or augmented reality model and publish it in a SharePoint site. So what we're seeing here is taking that idea and combining that with business data, that you can have a three-dimensional world of your business data and be able to see that in your SharePoint site, put on VR or augmented reality goggles, and navigate around that. Now that is very early in its beta right now, but it's certainly a way to bring VR and AR to the masses. Anyone want to add anything to that about that announcement? Okay.
It's going to be really cool when it gets here.
Yes. They also announced a number of list improvements. And I see a couple smiles here. Some of these were very, very exciting. If you had SharePoint on-premise, 2013 and so forth, there was the ability to copy data from Excel and paste it into SharePoint. And historically, this required that you had to have a control that came as part of Microsoft Access on the desktop in order for it to work. And it would sometimes work in SharePoint Online if it was a full moon, if the stars aligned, if you were using the right browser.
I'd rather be in the mountain time zone.
Yeah. So now they're announcing they've renovated that whole process and made it a first-class activity. And when this lands in your tenant, you'll be able to copy from Excel, paste into SharePoint list, and it'll work on any of the supported browsers, not just IE or whatever. That, and it will intelligently handle if you have extra columns in your spreadsheet that weren't in your list, it will automatically add those columns. So there's some really nice functionality there, and the benefit is it's going to be much easier to take data, tabular data that was previously in Excel, bring it into SharePoint with just copy and paste, and then get all the richness of a SharePoint list for that data. Another thing they announced was being able to have or receive real-time updates. So multiple people are making changes to a SharePoint list. Everyone will see those changes in their browsers in real time. So if you're looking at a list and someone else in their browser adds a row, you'll see that row appear. You won't have to hit refresh. It'll just automatically pop in. They also demonstrate the ability to promote a list item to a planner task. Between improvements to Planner and the integration between Planner and that and SharePoint, the availability of Microsoft To Do, you have an interesting continuum of personal task management to team task management the enterprise project management in Microsoft To Do, Planner, and Microsoft Project. Another SharePoint list improvement are more row and column formatting options. So you were previously able to format columns, now you can format rows, and so you can do color coding of rows and other kinds of richer presentation. So those are the list improvements that will be released at different times over, and we'll see at least some of these between now and Ignite. Well, of course, we'll get an update at Ignite. And there were a lot of other things they announced, and so if you want to watch all the announcements, it's available on demand at aka.ms/watch/STVS, SharePoint Virtual Summit. So I encourage you to take an hour and watch the recording. That's it for news. There's some upcoming events I want everybody to be aware of as well. Later this month, there is a conference called DWX, the Digital Workplace Experience Conference, and there is a bunch of postcards here. So each of you can take a postcard if you're interested, and you may recognize the gentleman in the picture on the postcard. Okay, who is that? He's from the SharePoint product team.
Chris McNulty.
So there's postcards here for this event. So Microsoft has developed last year. I assume they'll have some presence this year, and
It's kind of it's not strictly focused on Microsoft,
right,
but it is focused on digital workplace, including intranets and all of the things that we talk about here. So there's a lot of good information, and thanks to Michael, I'll be speaking at that event. I'm doing it adoption because he couldn't.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, the event is 18th, 19th, and 20th. On the 18th, I'm taking my daughter up to overnight camp, but I do plan to attend the event on the 19th and 20th. There's another conference called Maximizing Employee Engagement and Experience, and that's, I believe now, it was in June, moved to August. Amanda?
Yep.
Yeah, so the dates are right?
Yes.
Yep. And then looks like you've got a Digital Workplace and Intranet Summit in October as well. I don't have that up here. So if you're interested in finding more about those conferences, those are from the Advanced Leadership Institute. Wait, is that right? Advanced Learning Institute, sorry. And so those are local to Chicago as well. And so we've got some flyers on those. You can talk to Amanda. Then, of course, we have Ignite in September and SharePoint Fest in December.
Show of hands, anybody here going to Ignite?
Absolutely. I'm hoping to.
I submitted.
I requested to make some
proposals. One of my speaking proposals was to do an Office 365 adoption meetup. So if that gets picked, you'll hear about it. And I've got a placeholder for it on our meetup calendar. And I'll update that as things develop. SharePoint Fest is in town in December. This year it's going to be not 4 days, but 5 days. So we're excited to have that. So mark your calendar for those things. Our next meeting is going to be in August, but we need to figure out what our topic is going to be.
Yeah. If anybody's interested, I would like to volunteer to do something on OneDrive for Business.
I was going to guess OneDrive. All right, so that's one topic possibility. There's a lot of new things coming out.
I was thinking
with OneDrive.
Digital workspace. I think there's a lot of topics there. We have some experts we can pull in around, what does a modern workplace look like from a digital perspective.
Okay.
Including more than just the Office 365 stuff, right? So just what is digital transformation?
So like Windows 10, the whole.
Yeah, or just digital transformation, mobile workplaces, people working from home, and what does Microsoft see, or what other people see in the vision there? I think we have some people informed for that.
Right. Any other thoughts? Are you taking notes? Okay.
Champions program. I'd like to see what other people are doing.
Okay,
That's cool.
actually, that's like, we do a lot where I work. That's one of my life programs.
Presentation about what their champion program is.
Absolutely.
We have a champions program, but I'm the only one that I know of.
That might be a good open discussion type
too. We
topic.
can invite her. We can have a couple people talking about it.
So, the champions program, because
Maybe just tell people to come prepared with some bullets.
we have a big program on that I manage.
Yeah.
One of the managers, you mentioned you have some, and again, some of it works, some of it doesn't. So,
It sounds
how many
like
of you are
Brain
trying
Board
to
might have
do or have
something.
tried champion programs?
We're about to.
Okay, so that might be just a good open discussion topic, because we haven't had a lot of open discussion the last few meetings because we've had some really great speakers on some really good, timely topics. So it has cut into our open discussion, so that might not be a bad idea.
What about the adoption? Is anybody using the adoption pack?
We're getting there. We're actually just starting to.
Yeah.
So you want to talk about that as real quick? Joe?
Yeah. So we have it's in beta, so there's not a whole lot of support for it, but it's a wonderful Power BI pack that you can download for free. That gets put into your Power BI and it accesses data around usage, right? So for a champions program, it's great because you can drill down to who's using what workloads in Office 365, how they're using it, and so we're just starting to touch the surface of customers that are finding ways to use it and best practices. So
they need to update it more.
Well, we know that. So yeah, so as a CSM unit, we don't own it, but we love it. So we're trying to drive more development of that product. I think your voices will lend to that. But I think some customers have done some great things with it too. That I'd love to see you get that. I can send up a link in the space.
Yeah, that's the only I never knew to get it. Somebody had to send you a link, and you have to have Power BI.
Yeah.
In the reporting overview in the Office 365 admin, there is a tile for it, and then you click a button that says, "Well, go get your data." And
you have to have Power BI license for that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right. So let's get some other topics so we can. Yeah, it's
Like, I noticed there's been some deprecation of like some certain PowerShell commands from Exchange, and they're telling you to go to this thing called Microsoft Graph. But I'm not a programmer.
That's probably another good one. Microsoft Graph is probably another great one to look at. And to your point, a lot of the analytics. So Microsoft, there's another good topic, the My Analytics or Workplace Analytics. So Microsoft is coming out with some new features. If you have an E5 license, they have something called My Analytics, and you can add on Workplace Analytics. And there's some really cool stuff, and it's really in its infancy, and it really relies on your calendar and your email right now to determine how productive you are, all right? And again, there's some guidelines, and then the next phase of that is they're going to add some stuff from SharePoint and stuff, but all that information is really going through Microsoft Graph, and your planner and everything is that's sort of their data lake, if you will. I think, is that a good way to put it, Larry? Yeah. Their data lake of all the stuff that's happening in your environment. And there's really neat ways with the APIs that you can write programs to pull that stuff and dump them in a SharePoint list and things like that. That might be a really good one because that's kind of
more geared towards like non-programmers. I mean, I'm an administrator, I don't program.
And that's another good point. If we can find somebody who can talk at that level, I would love that too because I'm not a programmer either.
Yeah.
But I know there's a lot of stuff I can do with it, even at the GUI level, we'll call it, the administration level. So
the thing about the graph for a non-programmer is to know it's there so you can ask programmers to use it. Right? to know what kind of data it can provide, right? But yeah, there's a lot of places within Office 365 where Microsoft provides the user interface, like Delve is a canonical example, right? When you go to the Delve page, all the data that shows up on that page comes out as queries that come out of the graph. Right, so the graph is, as Rich stated, it is doing queries across that big lake of data that's constantly having more drips added to it every time a user does something throughout their day.
So I think if you go and you start Googling things, 6 months ago when they kind of first started talking about Graph as an option to actually access, I mean, I think it's been there for a while, but they've now sort of made it accessible for the end users and us. There wasn't a lot on Google, but you could probably find stuff, and if you have somebody who can type and can write fairly good programs, there's a lot of stuff out there.
Yeah, it's the protocol that it uses is just standard web requests, so it's pretty simple for like a lot of kids who are coming out. My daughter is a college graduate out of a computer science program, and they learn how to write quick Python scripts that can hit a bunch of web URLs and pull back data.
That's any middle schooler. They probably
stuff I never learned because it didn't exist when I was in school, but it seems to be super easy for them.
I was a programmer in college, when I was in college, and I can't keep up with it today. But kids today,
they're just learning a different.
Nobody uses COBOL anymore. That's
Well, actually, mine was Fortran 77.
Oh my God!
And basic. So, I knew I would appreciate that. I think I just dated myself along the line, but
So if you do want to see an end user facing tool for graphics, things like this, I'd be happy to.
Okay.
Yeah, that'd be.
So why don't we grab that, yeah, do you want
Yeah,
to?
in that program, I do weekly calls with Jeff McDonald out in Seattle, and we're.
Yeah.
You know,
I would love to see a customer presentation.
Yeah, customer presentation.
I've seen the internal ones, but, you know, what resonates for user customer.
And we don't Google things, by the way, everything.
Search engine. Anyway, so just to that point,
Google it with you.
until about a year ago when we started doing longer presentations, we used to have very much shorter presentations, but we also included one of our members to come up and present on something they've done. So maybe we can get back to
We
that.
haven't implemented, we're still playing with it.
Well, that's okay, but it's still something you're doing. So, you know, let's make sure we have your name and we'll push that out. So these are some great ideas. Anything else before we move to the next phase, which is our kind of our closing and our raffle here? That's the fun stuff, right?
And there's one other announcement I want to make, which is for any of your technical staff who attend the Chicagoland SharePoint user group, the one run by a gentleman by the name of Mark Spoke, that user group is entirely a virtual user group. We'll meet online, and so Meetup shut it down because Meetup is only for physical in-person meetings. So they're on LinkedIn now. So if you know anyone who's participating in that, let them know that it's moved from Meetup to LinkedIn.
And we'll get that on our site too.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, right. Yeah. Let me get it real quick before you advance the slide.
All right.
So I'll put it right on there right now. Go quickly.
A couple of last things. So, as I said, you know, our group is entirely really about you, right? It's not about the four of us. We just are kind of your servants here to keep this going. It's really great to see this as one of our bigger crowds, both between the phone and the in-person attendees. So we're really happy. So thank you for that. We are also starting a YouTube channel, which is where all of our videos and these presentations are going to be available. Where we're allowed to, you know, obviously we got to get permission, but so we are starting that, so there'll be information on our Meetup site about that. We'll get that out. Again, our next meeting, every other meeting is in a different location, so we'll be in the city next time or somewhere close to the city. We'll let you know the location as soon as we get that. We are going to hopefully have a new sponsor for the second half of the year. And really thank you, and please keep coming.
Tell your friends.
Yeah, tell your friends and people you meet. And again, if you have people you work with that can't attend in person, we do have the Skype meeting.